Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids, and in today's video I'm giving you my guide on Magnarr, one of the best nuking champions in the entire game. He is a HP based champion as well, and this is going to make him very unique. This is what makes him really special, stand out from the others. Most HP based champions, i.e. champions whose damage scales off their HP, they don't hit that hard, right? They're doing average damage. It's decent, but it's not blowing your socks off, right? When we look at Magnarr, though, with Magnarr, the socks are coming off. In fact, those socks have been blown off so hard, you're never getting them back, right? Throw them in the bin. They're done for. They're goners. Forget about it. Yeah, let's dive in. Let's take a look at his kit and what makes him so good. So, first up, we have his A1, Super Heated Hammer. Attacks one enemy, 45% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense debuff for 2 turns. That bucks up to a 65% chance. And then on top of that, he actually has a 100% chance to place decreased defense if the target is under a HP burn debuff. This hits reasonably hard. The multiplier on this is 23% of his HP. So you take his max HP, you multiply that by 23%, obviously then apply any critical modifier, so your critical damage, then it's going to be decreased by the enemy defense, all the rest, other buffs and debuffs that can affect it, and that's sort of the damage you're going to get. So it hits reasonably well. It's okay, but it's not amazing. This is not what we're excited about. Useful though. A1 that plays decreases defense, it's actually quite handy. His A2, Percussive Pound, this is what makes him so special. So it books to a 3-turn cooldown, attacks all enemies, places an extra hit on enemies without HP burn debuffs. Has a 50% chance to place a stun debuff for 1 turn on enemies under HP burn debuff. So the way this works, this is the cheeky thing here. I think it's something of a mistake in some respects from Plarium in terms of how they design the game. I think it's a bit questionable, where there's several champions. Trunda is another extremely good example. Several champions that have this extra hit mechanic on their AoE attacks. And basically the way it works is that in theory, it's supposed to be difficult to trigger this extra hit. And therefore, when you add up the damage of both hits, they do an absolutely monstrous amount of damage. This is why Trunda is the hardest hitting, well, one of the easiest to activate, hardest hitting AoEs in the entire game. And Magnarr is the exact same. He is the exact same. It's actually very easy, especially in Arena, not to put HP burn on your enemies. And then you get 2 hits out of this. And this has a 22% HP multiplier. It hits twice, giving it a total of a 44% HP multiplier. And then you get an additional 30% damage from your books as well. So this really, really hits hard. This really, really smacks. I think he's practically speaking pretty much the hardest hitting HP based damage dealer in the entire game. There's one champion that hits harder than him. I believe there's only one, and that's Versulf, who also has an extra hit mechanic. He does hit harder. I think he has a 25% multiplier for a total of 50%. But he doesn't have as much damage from books. He does hit slightly harder though. But for him to do his extra hit, enemies need to be stunned, frozen, feared, provoked, or petrified. And that's difficult enough to get on, right? It's hard to guarantee that's going to happen in Arena compared to Magnarr, where you go, okay, you know what? I just don't put any burns on. Double smack, let's go. So that's really what is making Magnarr so special here. His A3 then, Fan the Flames, single target attack, applies debuff spread, taking 2 random debuffs from the target, placing them on all enemies under HP burn, increases the duration of HP burn on all enemies by 1 turn. It doesn't spread any crowd control, and it's based off HP for 3-turn cooldown when booked. This hits hard too. It's a 37% multiplier. So this hits, it's probably going to hit roughly twice, not quite, but roughly twice as hard as his A1. So we're going to want to make sure that he has this as his second priority in any AI presets to make sure that he does it. The debuff spread effect is kind of nice. Like, there's some use for him for sure in Hydra. He could definitely step in and fill in for some Hydra teams where he's going to be a really good AoE damage dealer if you don't have HP burn. And if you do have HP burn, he's going to be landing consistent decreased defense, and he can be doing some debuff spreading and increasing the HP burns. So that's quite nice. He has a nice passive too as well. Heals a champion by 1% of his max HP every time anyone in the battle takes damage from HP burn. You don't really notice it, to be honest, but it's better than no passive at all, and it's useful against Raman too. And then he has an aura for 30% defense in Doom Tower battles. So a nice bonus to throw into your Doom Tower teams if you need as well. Let's take a look at then how I have built him. The best set for him for sure is Lethal. Is by far the best, 10% crit rate and ignore 25% of enemy defense. Savage is obviously the worst version of Lethal, but it's farmable in Fire Knight, which is ignoring 25% enemy defense. These are the big sets that really make him smack. Compared to other damage dealers, Cruel can be okay for that 5% ignore enemy defense, but he doesn't get the attack bonus. So you might not bother putting him in Cruel because it's just not getting most of its value. I would say Crit Damage is another really good 2-piece set for another 20% crit damage. As you can see, I have him in a 4 set of Lethal, and then I've got him in 2 random pieces that just happened to have good stats. How have I built him in terms of stats? I have him with lots of HP, 81,000. He actually has good defense as well, 2,350. I've got him very slow. I actually have him 1 speed slower than I want. I wanted to get him to 170, was what I was aiming for. So slow, very slow, but that lets us crank up his damage. 100% crit rate. I have him in 235% crit damage, and then he does have some accuracy for me. So there's definitely room to improve this gear, right? Dropping this accuracy, dropping some of this resistance, and pumping that into critical damage instead would really be the way to go. And yeah, in terms of your speeds, it's up to you. I'm going to show you several teams that we can run him in here today. So the speed you run depends on your team. As you guys know, if you've watched my other videos, I'm a big proponent of the slow nuker, right? To get around reaction accessories. He doesn't have any on right now. Let's say Mithrala, for example. My Mithrala has 2 reaction accessories, so she has a 50% chance to turn critical hits into normal hits if she's hit before the first turn. So I like to go in, take basically Arbiter goes first, and then I have someone like a Gaius come in and do an AoE sleep. I need to book out my Gaius to make it consistent, put the enemy team to sleep, and then have a really slow nuker just waiting in the back line. They take their turn, they sleep through their first turn, and then Magnarr comes in. Let's actually show you that in action. Let's go into arena. Okay, we got some pretty funky teams here. We might get outsped by this one. Okay, we got lots of funky teams with Torments and Hegemons. Here we go. This team at the bottom, this will do. So this is basically my theory of the team. Let me show you the setup here. And I use this team actually quite a bit, right? I use this. I typically use a Foley. Foley's going to do more damage and he blocks revive, but I switch it up into Magnarr sometimes for a couple of reasons. Reason number 1, if I show you the stats, yeah, Foley has 34,000 HP and 2,000 defense. Foley's going to die as soon as anyone even sneezes in his direction, okay? Magnarr, in comparison, I'll show you him in some tanky teams, with 81,000 HP, Magnarr can take a hit and keep going, right? He can take a hit and keep going, and that can be very helpful. And when we go up against some champions, we don't have any here, but champions that can put decrease attack or decrease defense, like a Madame Ceres, if they come in and they debuff you, that really completely cripples the damage of your attack and defensive-based nukers. As a HP-based nuker, there's really nothing that practically changes max HP in this game. Yeah, there's a couple of abilities that reduce max HP, but they really don't have any place in the meta. It's not something we care about. So his damage is going to be the same no matter what. So let's go in. Let's see it. Romantu is going I'll show you the Romantu. You could use Madame Ceres or Rian the Conjurer in this place. Romantu comes in, he strips their buffs, he debuffs them, then Gaius comes in, hopefully puts them to sleep. They sleep through their turns, and then boom, boom, the smacks come in from Magnarr, and he absolutely destroys them. He's a great combo with Gaius. If you got the Gaius fusion recently, if you were able to do it, they're so good together because that sleep lets them sleep through their turn, and because they're 2 different affinities, that's so much magic damage and so much spirit damage coming out. It's tough for people to deal with it. Canelia, as an epic, the epic dwarf Canelia is an insanely good option as well for an AoE sleep for arena. She's got great base speed, so she's a great option. Let's show them in like a tanky team. So look at this one, 2 Hegemons. So let's build a completely different team here. So we will bring in him. Let me just double check something. Yeah, okay, cool. Let's bring him in. So we'll bring in a Lydia. Let's bring in Lydia. Yeah, that's going to be fine to give us more resistance, to make sure we resist these Hegemons. We'll bring in a Mithrala, someone to cleanse these Hegemon debuffs. And then let's bring in Sandlash Survivor to help us stay alive. So let's go in. Let's do this on manual. So the idea here is that we let them go first. We let them smack us. And because he's a HP-based nuker, Look at that. Look at that. Because he's a HP-based nuker, he survives where other champions absolutely would not. So with the Mithrala, will now come give us Strengthen and the Shield. We don't need to put Increased Attack on to Magnarr. He doesn't need it. We're going to attempt to debuff these guys. We actually got debuffs on several of them. That's great. Here we go. We're just waiting now for Magnarr to get around to his turn. Here he goes. Now, another thing, another little bonus here. Watch the damage numbers, right? Watch the damage numbers, the first set and then the second set. Boom, boom. You see that 43 and then 69. Did you guys, nice. Did you guys see that? Did you guys see the 43 and the 69? Let's hit her. Okay, and we can extend our buffs and smack her. Let's see if we can take this Duchess down. I think she's going to get the revive off, but Lydia stops her, so we're all good. And boom, we take him down. Look at that. Beautiful stuff right there. Taking down double Hegemon, Lydia and Duchess. A terrifying team, really scary. But we were able to get through, nuking Hegemon as well. We're able to get through because Magnarr, he took 60, is my head in the way? Hopefully not. No, it's not. We're good. Magnarr took 62,000 damage, right? If that was an attack-based nuker, they're dead. They're dead. The reason he didn't die is because he has 81k HP. And then, yeah, it doesn't matter what debuffs are on. He's smacking for his full value. And especially with that Lydia debuff, it's huge. Now, did you see that other thing? It's what I was calling out during that fight. What was it, like 40 something and then 60 something damage on the Hegemon? What's going on there? Well, here is the special thing as well that Magnarr does, which is very useful against Duchess and against Hydra, right? Against Hydra as well, which really ups his damage in a surprising way. I don't have a Duchess myself, but check this out. Duchess decreases the damage taken by all allies from AoE attacks by 25%. Well, here is the thing. With Magnarr, when he does his AoE attack, the first hit is an AoE attack in the game code. But the second AoE is not an AoE attack in the game code. It's actually a single target attack individually directed at each enemy, which is distinctly different. Because basically the game goes to the first target and it checks, did they have HP burn? No HP burn. Okay, make that second attack, which is a single target attack against that target. Good. On to target number 2. So yeah, effectively, he basically does way more damage against Duchess than he should, because this is how it works. It's the same thing with Hydra, where the Hydra heads give you all have the passives that do reduce damage from AoE. So if we throw him in against the Hydra, you would see that the second hit of the AoE is going to hit significantly harder than the first hit, which is, yeah, it's a pretty spicy thing. It's a pretty cool thing. So there you go. We see him in 2 sort of teams here. Do we have like a traditional speed team? This team might just outspeed me. We can give this a go. We'll try it. If they outspeed us, we're going to die. Well, certainly if we throw in that team, we're going to die. Let's try it with this team. This might fail horribly because this is a pure speed race. Whoever is faster is going to win. And Valkyrie's going to mess with us. So we'll see. It might not work, but I'm really happy we got to show 2 cool teams. Okay, we might get away with it. We apply the strips on the buffs. Good that he resisted that. He puts them hopefully to sleep. Didn't put them to sleep. And we actually got locked out right there. So that was unfortunate. You see what happened right there was that Gaius, because he's not booked. We'll see. This is going to be a slow one. We'll see. Trunda should just kill us all. But Gaius, because he's not booked, did not successfully sleep Yumiko or Valkyrie, which is really screwed with us. So our abilities are on cooldown. I think we're just going to get hard locked by Yumiko pretty much from this point forward. Trunda is locked out of her abilities for 1 more turn, but I don't think it's really... Oh, no, never mind. She ran through. It's her passive that was turned off. Funny enough, she didn't actually do much damage. It's a really low damage Trunda for some weird reason. A really low damage Trunda. This Trunda's not built for... He's been carried by his champions, but not by his gear. Maybe Magnarr? No, he's got Fan the Flames. Unfortunate, he had his A3 came back, but not his other one. Let's see what we can do here. Come on, Magnarr. We have a chance. It depends on these speeds. He resisted. He survives Trunda. Here he goes. Kaboom! Kaboom! Oh no, it wasn't quite enough. The Trunda did take him down in the end, but we came close to winning. So I think we would have definitely won that if Gaius was booked. Like if Gaius is booked, he would have successfully slapped Yumiko and Valkyrie. We wouldn't have had that problem. Yumiko couldn't have put our abilities on cooldown. That was a very low damage Trunda, mind you. But yeah, that was kind of funny. That was kind of funny. Here's another Magnarr in a team right there. Another great thing with Magnarr, can we find any teams with Candrafon in here? Maybe not. Let's do one more refresh. He's really good against Candrafon, which is a big problem. Okay, I'm not seeing a Candrafon. Let's do one more refresh, and if we don't see a Candrafon, I'll just explain what he does that's good. Yeah, gosh, no Candrafon. That's a bummer. So basically, one of the hardest champions to fight on arena defense is Candrafon, right? Candrafon, he's a force affinity nuker. Most nukers, the most common nuking type in the game is really magic affinity, or the most popular, and obviously your starter champion is magic. So when you fight Candrafon with the wrong affinity, it's difficult to kill him. And then he has a passive that he takes 40% less damage under Veil or Perfect Veil. So it's very difficult to kill him, and he automatically gives himself a Veil as well whenever you get a turn meter boost. So he's a nightmare to actually blast down for a lot of teams. This is where Magnarr can be very good as a spirit nuker. He can absolutely blow up Candrafon even through this Veil, and if Candrafon somehow survives, it's still probably okay, because Magnarr, being so tanky and being a positive affinity, there's a good chance that Magnarr is going to live and have another chance to hit that Candrafon down as well. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Right, let's do one more arena fight for fun. Let me see. So he'd be very good against. Let's look at this one right here. Should be an easy fight. But against these two force affinity champions is kind of what I want to see. Okay, this is way too easy. Sorry, I should have chosen a harder one. But boom, he absolutely smacks through, and he rips through, no problem. But yeah, he's super useful. He is super useful. You can use him obviously in other places as well. He's going to be just fine in terms of progression. He's going to help you out. He's going to be amazing in faction wars. He's going to be good to start you out in Hydra, especially now that they've nerfed some of the HP stuff for Hydra. So you can use him there. Doom Tower, progression, everywhere. Because he is tanky, that's what he opens up for you. I don't think I actually need to show him in those other areas. You basically get what he does. He takes a hit really well as a HP-based champion. And so long as you build him with the right build, so 100% crit rate, high HP, as much crit damage as you can, and you can leave his speed around 170. It's what I'm aiming for. Is a good number for most sorts of teams. Yeah, he can take a hit, and he can absolutely deal a hit. And that's basically it. That is how he works. I don't think I showed you his masteries, actually. So the masteries we have him in is somewhat important. We're obviously going to get him the crit rate, more crit damage. I do have him with more damage against shields so that we can come across into Ruthless Ambush. Then I have him with single out as well. You could alternatively, you could go Deadly Precision into Keen Strike and then get him Heart of Glory, 5% more damage, max HP. Give him Whirlwind of Death and Ruthless Ambush. That's a good option. Then you can give him Wrath of the Slain, bring it down. I personally give him Cycle of Violence. Instead, though, I like Cycle of Violence. Then Kill Streak is important to up his damage when he kills, and Helm Smasher to help him smack through those champions in arena. This stacks really well with that Savage set or the Lethal set to make him hit harder. Then I just have him going down the defense tree. Nothing too exciting here, but you know, if he does get smacked, bit more defense, bit less damage from AoE, give him a chance to survive, chance to remove a debuff as well. And maybe even a chance to counterattack, and he can potentially kill someone and stuff like that. So you've got a few options, but really it's getting that Helm Smasher is the key one to make him hit hard. I will just point out, I do use him a lot as well. That's ended on like a random Doom Tower wave. Floor 119, this should be totally fine. I do use him in Doom Tower normal. He's a great addition to this team. Again, just to round it out and give you some of that Spirit Affinity nuking. So he's going to come in, boom, boom. Magnarr smacks through, right? We just have a whole bunch of nukers in this team is essentially what our idea is. Very simple. Magnarr single target hit, smacks hard. There we go. Skull Crown smacks. Ethos smacks. We come to wave number 3, and Romantu should be back to his debuff. Smack. Come on, Magnarr. Oh, unfortunately, he didn't quite have it right there. So sometimes he actually will have Percussive Pound right back because he hits so hard and the Mastery triggers, and he'll just finish them all off in that one go. Sometimes it takes him an extra turn or so. Well, here he goes. Magnarr now. Bam. Okay, he smacks him with the A1. Takes him down. 23 turns. It can be faster, obviously, if he gets the reset and he goes. But there you go. Magnarr, again, for this sort of team, for blasting on through Doom Tower normal, he's absolutely brilliant, and he'll work well for Doom Tower hard too, because he can take a hit. Champions like Ethos, great for normal, but when you go into Doom Tower hard, they're so squishy, it's just not that viable. Magnarr can be viable a lot longer, and with that aura too. Guys, thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed, and congrats if you pulled a Magnarr. He is fantastic from early game all the way to late game. I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.